Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are shining a light on a really huge shift in the US real estate market. The Treasury Department has a new rule out, and it's aimed squarely at all cash home sales. The whole idea is to finally pull back the curtain on a world that's, well, been shrouded in financial secrecy for a very long time.
So, let me just start with this question. Imagine you have millions of dollars, and you need to hide it where no one can trace it back to you. How would you do it? It's a question that law enforcement has been wrestling with for decades.
And for a long time, one of the best answers was hiding right there in plain sight. High-end luxury real estate. I mean, think about it. It's a stable asset, it appreciates in value, and, this is the crucial part, it used to offer just incredible anonymity, especially if you had the cash to buy it outright.
To really get why this new rule is such a game changer, we have to understand the problem it's trying to fix. So let's dive into what's known as the all-cash loophole and see how it basically became a superhighway for financial crime.
You know, this quote from FinCEN, they're the government's financial crimes watchdog, it just hits the nail on the head. They're telling us, straight up, that shell companies and trusts are the favorite tools for laundering money through property. It's a pretty simple strategy, but it's super effective. You hide who the real owner is, and suddenly you can wash dirty money without triggering all the red flags you'd get at a bank.
Right, so to tackle this problem head-on, a new rule is finally here. This is FinCEN's big nationwide reporting requirement, and it is specifically designed to close that exact loophole we were just talking about.
Now, this didn't just happen overnight. The whole journey really kicked off back in early 2024 when the rule was first proposed. It was supposed to start in late 2025, but they pushed it back a bit, to give the real estate industry time to get ready. And now, the new official date is March 1st, 2026. That's when it all goes into effect.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. How does this thing actually work? Who's responsible for all this new reporting? And what kind of information are we talking about?
So here's how it works in practice. It's actually pretty straightforward. When a house is sold for cash to, say, a trust or an LLC, so no bank loan involved, the closing agent, the person handling all the paperwork, now has a brand new job. They have to collect a bunch of specific information about the deal, and then they have to file a report with FinCEN within 30 days of that closing.
And just look at the level of detail they're asking for here. This is way more than just getting the name of the LLC. We are talking about identifying the beneficial owners, and that's the key term. It means the actual people who own or control the company, and collecting some really sensitive info, like their social security numbers. This transparency applies to everybody, the seller, the property itself, even the method of payment. It's a direct assault on the anonymity that made these kinds of purchases so attractive in the first place.
At this point, you might be wondering, okay, but is this really a big problem? How common are all cash deals anyway? Well, when you look at the data, it's clear this is far from some tiny niche issue.
Get this. According to the National Association of Realtors, a staggering 28% of all home buyers in the U.S. pay with all cash. That is more than 1 out of every 4 sales. It's a massive part of the market that operates completely outside the view of traditional banks and lenders.
But here, this is where the story gets really interesting. Just look at how that percentage of cash deals absolutely skyrockets as you go up in price. It jumps from that 28% overall to a full 50% for homes in that $2 to $5 million range. And then for properties over $5 million, it's a mind-boggling 65%. This is the exact part of the market where this new rule is going to have the biggest, most dramatic impact.
So, okay, besides some extra paperwork for real estate agents, why should the rest of us care about this? What's the real-world impact of cracking down on these anonymous cash sales? Well, as it turns out, the implications are actually pretty huge. I love this quote from Ian Gary of the Fact Coalition. He says, "Money launderers make poor neighbors and poor landlords." It just puts it so perfectly, right? This isn't just about fighting crime on some abstract global scale. When dirty money floods into a local housing market, it has very real, very tangible consequences for the people who live there.
And that quote really gets at the wide-ranging effects of this rule. Yeah, it deters money laundering and gives law enforcement better tools, but it could also help fix market distortions that drive up prices and make housing less affordable for everybody. Plus, think about it. When you actually know who owns a property, it's a whole lot easier to hold them accountable if they turn out to be a terrible, negligent landlord. At the end of the day, this is all about creating safer, fairer communities. And all of this really brings us to the central debate around this new rule. On the one hand, it's designed to unmask criminals by tearing down that wall of anonymity.
But on the other hand, it also collects the private information of totally legitimate buyers who might be using a trust for perfectly normal privacy reasons. And that leaves us with this fundamental question. Where do we draw the line between national security and personal financial privacy? It's a really complex debate, and one that is definitely going to continue.